天堂64ゲームが変わる64が変える
Welcome to Remember 64, where this week we jump into giant pictures and play in 3D. Welcome back to the show, everyone. My name is David Petrangelo, and I'll be your host for this adventure as I collect, play, study, and discuss the classic Nintendo 64 console with you and fellow nerdy guests. That's right, this is the podcast where you'll get a short history and fun discussion about N64 games every 2 weeks. Housekeeping off the top as usual, patreon.com/remember64show. That's where you can help me build my collection and this show itself. Of course, you get something out of it as well. You can become player 2, 3, or 4. You can get episodes early. You can vote on what games I'm going to play next and cover on the show. And you could even become a guest. All of this starting as low as $1 a month. That's it. That's all it takes. All of this to make a bigger community, to make a better show, and make it what you want it to be. I want to hear your ideas, and this is one of the best ways to make that happen. Stay tuned at the end of the show. I'll run through your answers after I asked you the nerd question of the day. What was your favorite memory from playing Super Mario 64? Time to bust out the history books, everyone.
I'm learning.
We're heading back to September 1996. On the 4th, Alanis Morissette and the Smashing Pumpkins win multiple awards at the 13th MTV Video Music Awards. September 7th, Tupac Shakur is shot and then passes away 6 days later. September 16th, Judge Judy premieres in the US. And of course, September 29th, Super Mario 64 and the N64 become available on North American shelves.
Want to grow? The calcium in milk helps bones grow.
Okie dokie.
Now, picture yourself playing Star Fox on the SNES in 1991 and saying to yourself, wow, this could be a Mario game. Well, that's not far off from what happened. Shigeru Miyamoto conceived of the 3D Mario idea back in 91, 5 years before the 64's release. Despite that brilliant idea, the road to get there was a little bit rockier than you might expect. The Nintendo creator and developer wanted to use the Super FX chip, but the Super Nintendo just couldn't bring his big idea to life just yet. Star Fox was already pushing the tech to the limit, so instead, the development was pushed a couple of more years until work on the N64 was in full swing. Initially, the camera for Super Mario 64 was the focus. Isometric views like Diablo games, for example, or think of older Fallout games were considered, but in the end, we know exactly where they landed. The early concepts of Mario jumping around on a landscape with a rigid camera design were happening pretty frequently, but just enough that just days before leaks revealed the 3D Mario game was on the way to the public, a demo and prototype was displayed at the Ultra 64, eventually the Nintendo 64's, debut at Nintendo Space World. By this time, the game was reportedly 50% finished, with more levels and AI to be tweaked along the way. Up to 32 different levels were planned for the game, but technology limited the development to less than 20 in the final version. Super Mario 64 was being developed simultaneously with the next big Legend of Zelda game to hit the console, which would eventually become Ocarina of Time. But because that took a lot longer and released a few years later, some puzzle ideas were taken from that Zelda title to flesh out the Mario launch title for the console. Speaking about its design, Miyamoto said after release, quote, "In earlier Mario games, we were able to measure the number of pixels Mario could jump and know exactly what was possible. But this time, we had to design the levels so that as long as your jump was close enough, you'd make it." All in all, Super Mario 64 sold over 11 million units worldwide, which means more than half of all the console owners owned this game. It was also the top-selling game for the console by over 2 million sales. The second best-selling game we covered on level 4, so check that out if you haven't already. All right, Nintendo nerds, let's chat about playing the game itself and our memories of it. Now it is, of course, time to talk about the console and the game itself, Super Mario 64. I have another new guest this time. I am so lucky to be joined by Love Gaming Retro. Sir, welcome to Remember 64.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here.
And before we dive right into talking about the console and the game, let's tell everybody about yourself, where they can find your awesome work out there on the internet.
Yeah, sure. So I'm currently on sort of 3 different platforms at the moment. So I'm on Instagram, Twitter, and I'm also putting a lot of time into YouTube. So the name of each of the platforms is all the same. So it's the platform itself at Love Gaming Retro, short, simple, and sweet. So you can find me on all 3 of those. But I'm trying to be as regular as possible. So my main sort of, I guess, interest is Nintendo more than anything. So although I love gaming, it's very much based on Nintendo Switch, but also a lot of the retro Nintendo consoles. So we're going through every generation, including handheld as well as just the standard consoles as well. But yeah, so if you're into that, give me a look at, and then hopefully you enjoy my stuff.
Awesome. Well, I specifically reached out to you because I enjoy your stuff, and I hope that other people will too. So I just wanted to let everybody know about the awesome work that you're doing, and you know, we talked before I hit record, but you're doing stuff very consistently and lots of stuff out there for people to enjoy, whether it's older games or newer ones. Like the most recent one that I just watched from you is your thoughts on the newest Kirby game, which seemed like a blast.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's actually interesting because as a game that brought back so many memories, because, you know, Kirby, very old Nintendo character, are being brought back to life. The franchise is back alive now from Nintendo, and there's so much you can compare it to, especially with the way they've designed the game and the layout. It does remind me of Mario Odyssey. But obviously Mario Odyssey is a game that brings back memories from the old 3D Nintendo Mario games as well. So there's a lot of nostalgia when you start playing these games, which is, if anything, the best thing when it comes to gaming. So yeah, definitely a game everyone should get their hands on, give it a play. Fun, quick to get through, but again, just really fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm very, very tempted to find my way to that game because I have a lot of nostalgia and love for the Kirby 64 game. That was probably the one that I played the most, and you know, I had the original one on Game Boy, original couple of games on the original Game Boy, which I absolutely love and still would pick up and play today. But it looks like you said, things have evolved, but also it's very nostalgic at the same time, which is, you're right. Actually, even just looking at the trailers and looking at the gameplay and things that you had in your video, it looks like a game that would hit me right in the perfect spot. So I think that's you've got me extra hyped for it already.
Yeah, definitely give it a go. That you will not be disappointed.
Awesome. Okay, so let's dive into the Nintendo 64. I want to ask you about your experience with it. Did you grow up having it? Did you pick it up later? Was it something that was at a friend's place or cousin's place or anything like that? What's your history with the Nintendo 64?
I don't even know where to start. So, I mean, you could be talking about the N64 for hours and hours and hours. So
that's why I'm here, man. That's why I'm doing this.
So my initial first, I guess you should say, impressions of the N64 was originally at my friend's house. They had the original dark gray version. And the first ever game I played on it was GoldenEye 007. And again, we could talk about that game for hours too. It was probably the most fun multiplayer game you could possibly play with 3 of your friends plus you, because obviously had the 4 controllers. Now, because of that, I wanted the N64 so much, so much. So, you know, my parents at the time, I was lucky enough for them to be able to get me one a little bit later, but they didn't get me the standard version. They got me the Pikachu version. So it was like the blue and yellow.
Oh, look at you, fancy.
Yeah, I can't lie. It was actually a nice little addition. It was quite nice. It felt nice, so cool. Different.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the N64, although it was my second console ever, because I originally bought the Super Nintendo, the SNES, and then obviously it evolved into the N64. But I think I had about 32 games, and I had nearly all the different color controllers. this was the console of my whole time. What made me fall in love with gaming completely. Um, again, I spoke about GoldenEye 007, but one game that really doesn't get respected enough is Perfect Dark, which to me was
Yeah.
a better version of GoldenEye. And interesting fact is, Perfect Dark was the best frame rate game on the N64 ever made. Not many people know that, and I just thought that was so impressive. And yeah, it was just an amazing game. But like I said, I could talk about this for hours. I mean, the original ISS football game was on there. Mario 64 was my favorite Mario game of all time. That was on there. But again, my favorite game of all time, Zelda Ocarina of Time. I mean,
Oh yeah.
it goes without saying.
You and hundreds of thousands, or if not millions of others.
I know it's not a very unique thing.
No, but I think that's a testament to the game itself, right? I mean, that's really what that is.
Yeah. I mean, people talk about Breath of the Wild, and yeah, great Zelda game, 100%. But for me, it still doesn't beat Ocarina of Time.
Right. Now, you mentioned Super Mario 64 is your favorite Mario game, and one that is exactly what we're here to talk about. So, I'll just start by saying that this game I got to later than most people. I mean, I had an N64, but I did not have. This was not one of like the first purchase games. I had a 64 fairly early in its life cycle, but I never owned this game until much later. So I played a lot of it at my cousin and friend's place, where we'd play a couple levels here, a couple levels there. And I always found it to be like this, it was hard to wrap my head around it at first. I think the camera and all that kind of stuff, the 3D was just, I don't know. It broke my brain for a little while, and I found it hard to get into right off the bat because of that, I think. But the more and more you play it, and the more you get used to it, at least, especially at the time, you realize like, wow, they're really advancing things. They're really trying to do something new here. And even as, a 10-year-old playing this game, I thought, this is crazy. They could do this with Mario. This is insane. This is like, there's so many cool things you could do. Just running and jumping, his sort of long jump style when you run and jump with them was like, this is fun. This is awesome. I love doing this. You could jump here. You could climb the trees. You could do this. You could do that. And just the variety of levels of how you experience it. I just remember constantly going back to the early levels for whatever reason, and just exploring. The fact that you could explore a Mario game I think is what hits me the most with this. I'm not sure what your initial impressions with it were, because it ended up being your favorite Mario game, and will probably be up there for a while. But at the same time, initially it's like, I don't know, it kind of blew my mind.
And you know what? You're probably not the only one, because if you think about it, before the Mario 64, we were always used to Mario being, the ultimate platform game.
Mm-hmm.
And, they did bring out more platform games after Mario 64 as well. But it kind of felt like the first generation of what open world was really like. Maybe not many people see it that way, but 3D gaming, when it first got released on N64, you could do things you could never do in gaming before. So it was such an eye-opener about where gaming would go in the future. And I mean, I think the only thing I probably struggled with, if I'm being completely honest, is you're right. Sometimes the controls, if you're not familiar with it, it did take a little bit of getting used to how Mario used to turn, how he used to climb on certain platforms, how when you're attacking, is it done in the right angle with the camera? Little things like that where you're like, right, okay, I can't just jump into the game straight away. It's a little bit about practice makes perfect.
Yeah, the learning curve is a little bit more of a learning curve than just moving from left to right.
Exactly. And you know what? It was at the time where, it was something they've tried first by bringing the 3D world game into us. So we have to learn it at the same time as well. And we're only going to get better at it as the time goes on. But I think for me, it enabled us to really not just learn about Mario, but we learned a lot more about the relationships between the characters. So how connected, Princess Peach was with Mario, and Bowser was to Princess Peach, and how their revenge goes back. And it really brought the story to life. And that, I think that's why it made it my favorite Mario game, because it wasn't just the gameplay, but the story behind that game and behind the franchise itself, for me, started from that game. So my love just grew onwards from then. But it really was a phenomenal game. the first sort of level I imagine straight away anytime someone brings up Mario 64 is the level of the penguin. I don't know if you
Yeah.
remember. And if I could tell you how many times I died trying to keep up with that penguin on that ice slope, oh, I lost count. I lost count. But it didn't
You
make
lose
it.
count pretty quickly. Yeah.
But it didn't. This is the thing. It didn't make it so frustrating. You wanted to stop playing it.
Right.
The enjoyment, even after losing, was like, no, I enjoy it so much. I'm going to continue
Yeah.
until you complete the game, and then trying to get all the stars. There's one level in particular. I can't remember what it was called now, where you were able to become Metal Mario.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, and you were going like in this abandoned ship that was underwater. I think it was near the middle of the game, but it was just the different types of like Mario features. I mean, they're not really called weapons, but features you got, like the Metal Mario and other different types. It was brilliant. It was something that they never did. It was, like I said, I'm falling in love all over again just talking about it 25 years later.
Yeah, that's right. The Metal Mario was in the cavern, I think it was the name of it, cavern something. And it's cool because you never in a Mario game before that, you could sort of swim on the top of the water, and then there were the underwater levels. But the underwater levels, it's always like every time, not every time, but a lot of the time people say, oh, the underwater level in the Mario game. Oh, the underwater, it's more of like, okay, we just got to get through it. But then they made it interesting this time, like they did something different, and they did something you hadn't seen before, which is just added to the list of things you haven't seen before with this game, right? I mean, even just doing that race with the penguin, something you haven't done or seen before. No. Add the metal cap so you can be metal and go underwater without having to worry about it. Something you haven't seen before. Like just add it to the list. It's incredible.
And if you think about it, all the latest Mario games after that have taken everything from this and tried to improve it.
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to say about when you were talking about the story, especially, which is something actually that I think you're right. Doesn't get talked about enough. Sure, it's not super deep or anything, but that doesn't matter. The fact that you do get a little bit more from the characters, but I was, now that you say that the other games build on what this provided, I think that's exactly what Odyssey does, especially. Odyssey is a huge, I mean, sure, the Galaxy games as well, but I feel like Odyssey is very closely tied to what this game is. It felt very similar to me.
100%. Take away the graphics and the smoother gameplay.
Sure.
If anything, it's an advanced 64 game.
Yeah.
And the thing is, there's nothing wrong with that. If anything, that's
not at all. Not at all.
That's what's so right about the game, and which is why they probably consider Odyssey one of the best Mario games ever made as well, because it's taken everything from the previous best Mario game. Well, from my perspective, anyway.
Sure.
But yeah, I mean, what else? I mean, you tell me, what else could we really talk about Mario 64? Like I said,
I mean, I have a slightly more, I mean, we're talking about how much we love this game, and I do really like it. I think it's awesome, but I have a slightly more blasphemous thing to say about 3D Mario games in general. I find I enjoy the 2D stuff, old, new, whatever it was, far more than I do the 3D ones. I played Odyssey. A friend of mine, a co-host on my other podcast, and back in my day, lent me his copy of that, and I finally played it like late last year, actually. So it actually took me a while to play it. I like that game. I love it, just like I love Mario 64. But there's something, I don't know what it is. There's something about the 3D and always having to worry about the camera. Like I don't know. It's weird for me to say like, hey, I don't like this 3D game, and then I'll go and I'll play a 3D action platformer on the same console and be like, this is amazing. Games are still amazing and they're still fun and awesome, but there's something about 2D Mario, 2D Metroid, there's something about these games. And again, I haven't experienced the new Kirby like you have, but I attach Kirby to a 2D game, right? And maybe it's just my closed perspective on the franchise and on what I expect to come from them. I don't know what it is. I have a good time with these, but then I'll pick up a 2D version of Mario and I'll be like, okay, this is actually, quote unquote, in my opinion, better than Mario 64 or Odyssey. I don't know what it is. There's just little things that just seem to work better for me in the 2D scape. And I don't, maybe it's blasphemy, but it's just how I feel.
No,
So
no, no.
don't
You know
hate
what
me.
it
Don't
was?
hate me.
No, no, no. I don't hate you at all. I think it's an interesting point because I think it all depends on what generation of console you grew up with. So, for example, if the N64 was your first ever console, then you're never really going to know how 2D was really well it really was, how good it really was,
Sure.
because the first initial thing you're getting is your first generation of 3D gaming. Now, when I said to you before, I grew up with the Super Nintendo first, I also at the same time had the great original Game Boy.
Yes, as did
Now,
I. Yeah.
right. So when you're looking at these two, handheld and physical consoles, you are already so familiar with the Mario character, with, Samus from Metroid character, Kirby character. So you're already in love with them. So that, again, nostalgia being so big, you're never going to forget it. Like, although I said Ocarina of Time is probably my favorite game of all time, I can't not say Link to the Past was also up there as my top 5th game in the world.
Right.
Because for me, you're right. That feeling of the original game, the cartridge, the 2D, the music soundtrack. And that's another thing I'm going to say. I think the only thing, if there is a thing that lets down Mario 64, is, for me, I find music very important in the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
If anything, it can make or break the game.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying Mario 64 soundtrack and music isn't great. It's fine. It works. It does what it needs to. But if we're talking about music, give me Super Mario World on the SNES.
Yes.
And then we're talking about what music should be in a game.
Yeah, I agree. The music in that, I mean, it's a massive game too, right? Like World is a huge game, and so is Mario 64. And yeah, I you know what? That's actually true. I sit here. I didn't really, I've been playing it over the last week on and off, and I guess I'm sitting here and I think about it when you mentioned the music, and nothing stands out to me as this amazing track. Yeah, super memorable. Yeah. Whereas the second you just said Super Mario World, I go, oh, well, I can automatically think of the music in the castle or in the Boo levels. Like those ones stand out to me. And this one doesn't have that track, at least not currently as I sit here. But I also didn't play this game growing up as much as I played World or as much as I played some of the Game Boy games. But I think you're right. I think that is actually something that it's not bad. You're right. I don't think you're setting it up to be like, this soundtrack is terrible, but it's also not a home run as well.
Well, that's the thing. And I think if you break down every sort of subcategory when you're talking about games, you're going to talk about the graphics, the motion play, you're going to talk about the soundtrack, you're going to talk about the story. If you look at all of it, Mario 64 will get at least a 9 out of 10, at least.
Oh yeah.
But because they always say there's no such thing as a perfect game, because what's perfect to one person is also not perfect to another person. So it's all relative. But yeah, I think even when you look at the N64, the only soundtrack that for me is so memorable is GoldenEye.
Okay.
Like even Zelda Ocarina of Time. Other than the intro, the music throughout the game, I don't remember it. It's not memorable for me. But now you give me Link to the Past, and I can already start bopping my head, knowing every single tune and note and everything, because I felt like maybe because Nintendo spent so much time focusing on giving us a newer experience of 3D, maybe they thought that would be so much more to get excited about than relying on music to get us excited. Where with the Super Nintendo, because you're just so familiar with 2D, they had to focus more on the music to bring it to life. I don't know. It's just a thought.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's part of it. I think actually, like, as much as there's an advancement in the technology of what the 64 had to offer, and, and PlayStation and Saturn, all these consoles around the same time, I think the 64 still, in some ways, I mean, it is part of the history of the console, why there's an expansion pack and all these types of, there is still limited capability inside the console itself. A lot of power came from the cartridge, which again also has limited power. And it's like,
of course,
they made the console cheaper, which made it, sell fairly well and do really well and everything. But I do think that, maybe potentially music or sound in some ways was one of the things on some games that wasn't at the top 3 of the top of their list of things to do. And
I can agree with that.
Yeah, you still have a really great set of sounds and soundtrack and all these types of games, and obviously amazing gameplay. But yeah, maybe that's part of it. Maybe it's just a limited part of the technology. And Super Mario 64 didn't have the advantage of the expansion pack because that didn't come out until about a year to a year and a half later, which is where games like you mentioned earlier, Perfect Dark, took full advantage of. So
that was a good game.
Exactly, right? So like there's things like that, but I think we're also nitpicking because it's like it's such a good game. It's such a good series of game. It's like you can nitpick about anything, but just because it's not, 110% the perfect game doesn't mean it's not an amazing game. So
no, it's so true. It's so true.
Exactly.
I mean, and as well, we're talking about a console that probably had the best controller of all time.
Okay. All right.
Now, a lot of people probably wouldn't agree with me on that.
Well, I would say that it's not, but I don't hate it either. I definitely don't dislike the controller, but I find myself really always gravitating towards Xbox controllers. Yeah. And again, this is later. I was an original Xbox guy and everything, but I don't know. Maybe it's just the shape of my hands. I don't know what it is.
No, well, it's interesting you say that because I had the PlayStation 1, PlayStation 2, never had the 3. I've only recently got the 4, so I'm like 10 years too late.
Oh man, you got great games to play, so you're all good. It's all good.
Right, exactly. And I haven't got the 5 yet, but I had the original Xbox and the Xbox 360. And I have to say, where they've put the analogs is in the perfect place for your thumbs. Where PlayStation, you don't naturally put both of your thumbs down in the middle. One's always top, one's always at the bottom. So for me, Xbox just fit really well.
Yeah.
But what I liked about the N64 controller was, and I'm not going to lie, it did take a little while getting used to, especially coming from the SNES. But the whole Z button at the back and your thumb navigating with the joystick, I thought them two being, you could easily use both of those at the same time was a brilliant way of working.
That's a really smart part of that controller. I absolutely agree. Yeah.
And then when they brought out the original Super Smash Bros., I don't know if you ever played that game with the N64.
Oh yeah, no, we have one of the episodes that I did a few weeks ago was on that, and it was like I got to talk about this game like right away. That was like a day one purchase type of game. So
yeah, that was that. I mean, that was phenomenal. And with that controller as well, there was so much you could do. With the C. I mean, what are they? I can't remember what they're called. They're just called C buttons.
Yeah, just the C buttons. Yeah, the 4 C buttons.
Right? Yeah,
up, down, left, right. Like it wasn't anything fancy.
But yeah, so they like we said, they knew what they were doing at the time, and for me, I know we're not talking much about PlayStation, but that whole comparison of N64 versus its rivals at the time. You can't compare a 32-bit console to a 64-bit console. It just doesn't make sense.
Right.
Just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, sir, love Gaming Retro. Thanks, man, for coming on the show. I appreciate it.
No worries at all.
I love that we talked about the controller. I love we talked about music because gaming music to me is something I listen to all the time. Yeah. And again, just a quick reminder, where can everybody find your great stuff online?
Yeah, so like I said, so YouTube, my channel is YouTube. You just type in Love Gaming Retro, all one word. I'll pop up straight away. Twitter as well, Love Gaming Retro, all one word, and also on Instagram, Love Gaming Retro. So if you think of retro and you think of loving gaming, think of me.
There it is. Amazing. Somehow the name, it fits perfectly in that. I don't know how you came up with it, but it just fits perfectly, doesn't it? Genius, sir. Genius. All right. Thanks for joining me, man. We'll be sure to talk soon about more games. Appreciate it.
No problem at all. Look forward to it.
All right, let's hear the nerd question of the day. Your answers. I asked you on social media what your favorite part of Super Mario 64 was and your favorite memory. Slonko Bomb said, looking up at the ray of sun coming in the lobby of the castle and getting the wing cap for the first time. Solidified moment right there. At SNES is life. I feel bad because we just sort of chirped the music in this game, but they say the music in the game was on another level. Dire Docks, the Bowser levels, and even the castle music, just so good and ingrained in my head all these years later. Well, you make a very good point. At Ride Cook says seeing Lakitu in the mirror for the first time. At Jizwa Project says, going inside the pyramid for the first time, it was super advanced and my jaw dropped upon seeing everything you can do inside. Pete Scarrett says, this right here. And he has a gif of throwing the penguins off the cliff in the winter level. Classic. And my co-hosts from back in my day have a couple of answers as well. Michael R. Power says, beating Bowser. And Mr. Ian Walter says, grabbing Bowser's tail and swinging him around, all while dodging his fireballs. Thanks everyone for joining myself and at Love Gaming Retro for level 4 of this podcast. As I mentioned off the top, patreon.com/remember64show is where you can help me and other guests build this gaming collection so I can share our experiences with you. It also gives you a chance to be a part of the show, and you can even get episodes early. Email me anytime at remember64show@gmail.com and find more videos, photos, and fun other collecting shenanigans on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok. All of those you can find at Remember64Show. So until next time, stay pixelated, my friends.